Ryan's office revenge.
Listen, I've been running cranes for 28 years, and I thought I'd seen every kind of jerk on a construction site. But nothing prepared me for the day some silver spoon punk crushed my pride in front of my 12-year-old son, then found out what happens when you mess with 4 tons of American steel. My name's Troy Pierce, I'm 48, and this is the story of how I went from unemployed nobody to the guy who exposed the biggest construction scandal this city's ever seen. It started on a Tuesday morning in October, the kind of crisp fall day that makes you glad to be working outside instead of stuck in some office cubicle. I'd brought my son Dustin to the job site for Take Your Kid to Work Day. The boy was fascinated by the crane, always asking how the hydraulics worked, why we needed counterweights, stuff like that. Made me proud, you know? Maybe he'd follow in the old man's footsteps, learn a real trade with his hands instead of sitting behind some computer screen all day. "Dad, how high does she go?" Dustin asked, craning his neck to look up at my rig. The kid was wearing his best jeans and a button-down shirt his mother had picked out for the occasion, made him look older than his 12 years. 80 feet, bud," I said, adjusting his hard hat. The yellow plastic was too big for his head, but it was regulations. "And she can lift 20 tons without breaking a sweat. But you stay in the yellow lines, okay? This isn't a playground. This is serious business." Wade Peterson, the gate guard who'd been around since the site opened 3 years ago, chuckled from his folding chair. Wade was one of those guys who should have retired 10 years back but couldn't afford to. His pension had been gutted by some corporate restructuring, so he kept working, watching the gates and shooting the breeze with whoever would listen. "Your daddy's the best operator in the state, kid," Wade said, spitting a sunflower seed shell into an empty coffee can. He could lower a piano onto a stack of eggs without cracking a shell. Seen him thread a steel beam through a window opening with 2 inches to spare on either side, I felt that familiar swell of pride. 28 years of building this city's skyline, one steel beam at a time, started when I was 20, fresh out of trade school and eager to prove myself. Worked my way up from ground crew to tower crane operator, the most skilled position on any construction site. These days, they wanted everything done fast and cheap, but I still believed in doing it right. "Can I go up with you today, Dad?" Dustin asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "Maybe later, sport?" "Let me get through the morning lifts first." That's when we heard it. The rumble of an expensive engine that didn't belong on a construction site. A silver Mercedes AMG GT came roaring through the gates, its exhaust note aggressive and out of place among the diesel trucks and heavy machinery. The driver didn't head for the management parking area like he should have. Instead, he swerved that low-slung sports car right into the drop zone. The drop zone, the most dangerous 30 square feet on the entire site, painted red with warning signs and cross-hatching that basically screamed death from above. It was where we brought down the heavy loads, where a dropped bolt could put a man in the hospital and a falling beam could turn a car into a pancake. Out stepped Lance Wheeler, 26 years old, and fresh from some fancy business school back east. Word was he was the nephew of Summit Building Corp's CEO, which explained how someone with 0 construction experience ended up as our project manager. He wore a Navy suit that probably cost more than I made in a month, and sunglasses that hid his eyes even though it was overcast. The kid looked like he was heading to a yacht club, not a construction site. Lance didn't even glance at the warning signs, just checked his reflection in the car window, ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, and started tapping on his phone like the rest of us were invisible. Lisa Rodriguez came jogging out of the site trailer, her hard hat askew and clipboard clutched to her chest. Lisa was our foreman, a tough woman who'd worked her way up through the ranks over 15 years. She knew safety regulations like a preacher knows the Bible, and she didn't take kindly to anyone putting her crew at risk. "Mr. Wheeler, you can't park there," she called out, slightly out of breath from her sprint across the uneven ground. "We've got steel coming in at 9. "That's an active load zone." Lance held up his hand without even looking at her, his attention still focused on his phone. His fingers moved across the screen with practiced efficiency, probably sending emails or checking stock prices or whatever rich kids do with their time. "Relax, Lisa," he said, his voice carrying that particular tone of condescension that made my jaw clench. "I'm only here for the morning brief. I'm not walking through the mud in these shoes." He gestured down at his Italian leather loafers, which probably cost more than most guys made in a week. "We can't work around it," I said, stepping forward before I could stop myself. The words came out because somebody had to speak up. 30 men on this crew, and they were all looking at the ground, afraid to challenge the boss's nephew. If I drop a load or even a shackle, that car's pancaked. Insurance won't cover negligence, Mr. Wheeler. Lance finally looked up from his phone, lowering his sunglasses to get a better look at me. His eyes were cold, calculating, like he was sizing up a piece of equipment to see if it was worth the maintenance costs. "And who exactly are you?" he asked, my name somehow becoming an insult just from the way he said it. "Troy Pierce, crane operator." "Well, Troy," he said, dragging out my name like it left a bad taste in his mouth. "I sign the checks. You pull levers. If I say the car stays, the car stays. Now get up in your little box and do your job. Try not to drop anything on my paint job." He turned and walked toward the trailer, dismissing me like I was some piece of equipment that had gotten out of line. The crew standing nearby suddenly found their boots very interesting to look at. Nobody wanted to make eye contact. Nobody wanted to get involved. Can't say I blamed them. Jobs were hard to come by these days, and Lance Wheeler held all the cards. I looked down at Dustin. His face was flushed with embarrassment, not for himself, but for me. His old man had just been put in his place by some kid in a fancy suit, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. "Come on, bud," I said, forcing a smile. "Let me show you the cab before the morning safety meeting." We walked toward the base of the crane, Dustin trailing behind me. The tower stretched up into the gray October sky like a steel skeleton, all angles and purpose. She was a Liebherr 550 ECH, the kind of machine that takes real skill to operate. Not like these new computer-controlled rigs that practically run themselves. This one required feel, experience, the kind of knowledge you only get from years of working with your hands. "Dad," Dustin said as we reached the base of the ladder, "why didn't you tell him to move his car?" That question hit me harder than Lance's insults. How do you explain to a 12-year-old that sometimes the world doesn't work the way it should? That having the right answer doesn't matter if you don't have the right last name? Sometimes, sport, you have to pick your battles, Mr. Wheeler's got the authority to make those calls. But you said it was dangerous. It is dangerous. But I'll be extra careful today. Dustin nodded, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. His dad, who'd always taught him to stand up for what's right, had just backed down from a fight. The lesson wasn't lost on him, and it made my stomach turn. I'd started working construction right out of high school. Back then, there was still some respect for the guys who actually built things. You learned from the old-timers, served your apprenticeship, earned your place through sweat and skill. These days, some college kid with an MBA could walk in and start giving orders to men who'd been perfecting their craft since before he was born. The next few hours were a nightmare. Every lift had to be calculated around that silver Mercedes sitting in my drop zone like a landmine. I had to swing loads in wide arcs, compensating for wind shear and momentum, all while keeping one eye on that car and praying nothing went wrong. A crane operator's worst fear isn't dropping a load, it's dropping it on someone. And with Lance's precious vehicle right in the danger zone, I was walking a tightrope 280 feet in the air. At 10:30, we had our first close call. I was moving a bundle of rebar, maybe 3 tons worth, when a gust of wind caught it. The load started to swing, pendulum-like, directly toward the parking area. I had to hit the brake hard, the cable snapping taut with a sound like a gunshot. The rebar bundle stopped maybe 10 feet from the Mercedes, swaying back and forth. My radio crackled immediately. "Troy, what the hell was that?" Lisa's voice was tight with anxiety. "Wind shear," I replied, wiping sweat from my forehead despite the cool morning air. Had to emergency stop to avoid the vehicle in the drop zone. "Copy that. I'll talk to Wheeler again. Don't bother, he's made his position clear." But Lisa tried anyway. I watched from the cab as she approached Lance, who was standing outside the trailer with a group of architects, probably discussing how to cut more corners to boost profits. Even from 280 feet up, I could see his dismissive wave, the way he turned his back on her mid-sentence. By 11:30, word had spread through the crew about the close call. Guys were starting to get nervous. Nobody wanted to be under a swinging load when the operator was having to thread needles because of some rich boy's convenience. The welders moved their work to the far side of the building. The concrete crew found reasons to take their break early. That's when I saw Lance emerge from the trailer again. But this time he wasn't alone. He was walking with Dustin. My heart stopped. I locked the crane controls and grabbed my radio. "Lisa, why is my son out of the trailer?" "I don't know," she whispered back, panic in her voice. Wheeler called him out, said he wanted to talk to the boy about his future. I couldn't stop him, Troy. He's management. I watched through the cab's dirty window as Lance led my son toward the Mercedes. They stopped right next to the car. Lance's hand on Dustin's shoulder in a gesture that looked friendly from a distance, but felt all wrong to me. I shut down the crane's hydraulics and started climbing down that ladder faster than I'd moved in years. Every rung felt like an eternity. By the time I was halfway down, I could hear voices carrying across the site. Lance's voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The crew had stopped working. Jackhamers went quiet. Welding torches died out. Everyone was watching the drama unfolding in the shadow of my crane. I hit the ground running, my boots slipping on the loose gravel as I headed toward them. That's when I saw what Lance was holding, Dustin's sketchbook. The one where he drew pictures of construction equipment, where he'd spend hours copying the way the crane looked against the skyline. "See, kid, this is why you need to go to college," Lance was saying, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden quiet. "So you don't end up like your old man here." He was flipping through the pages of Dustin's drawings, holding them up like evidence in a trial. "Sitting in a box all day, playing with joysticks, working for pennies. That's no life for a smart kid like you." I was still 50 feet away, close enough to hear every word but too far to stop what was happening. "Give me the book," I said, my voice low and dangerous as I closed the distance between us. Lance looked up at me, that same condescending smile spreading across his face. "Oh, look who decided to join us. I was just giving your boy some career advice, Troy. Telling him to aim higher than this." He waved dismissively at the construction site, at me, at everything I'd spent my life building. "Look around, kid. This is what happens when you don't get an education. Your dad here peaked in high school." "Give him the book," I said again, stepping closer. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from pure rage that I was trying to keep bottled up. Lance laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the morning air. "You know what? I think you need an attitude adjustment, Troy." He looked at the sketchbook in his hands, then deliberately tossed it into the mud. Splat. Right next to Dustin's sneakers. "Pick it up," Lance commanded, but he wasn't talking to Dustin. He was looking straight at me, a challenge in his eyes. "Pick it up, Troy. Show your son how the real world works. Show him what happens when you don't have power." The construction site had gone dead quiet. 30 men were watching from various distances, some pretending to work but all tuned in to what was happening. The concrete crew had stopped their pour. The electricians had set down their tools. Even the traffic on the street seemed to fade into nothing. Dustin was looking up at me with those wide eyes, waiting to see what his dad would do. In that moment, I could see my own father in his face. The disappointment I'd felt as a kid when the world didn't work the way it was supposed to. When good men got stepped on by those with more money and connections, I bent down slowly, my knees popping in the silence. The mud was cold and thick, mixed with concrete dust and motor oil. I pulled out the sketchbook, its cover slick with gray muck. Dustin had drawn a superhero logo on that cover, spent hours making it perfect. Now it was ruined. "There's a good boy," Lance said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "Now maybe you understand the pecking order around here." I wiped the book on my jeans and handed it to Dustin. His hands were trembling as he took it. "Go to the truck, son," I said, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. "But Dad, go to the truck now." Dustin looked between me and Lance, confusion and shame warring on his young face. Then he turned and ran toward the parking area, clutching his muddy sketchbook like it was the most precious thing in the world. I watched him go until he was safely past the equipment yard. Only then did I turn back to Lance. He was smiling, that same cold smile, the expression of someone who'd just won a game he'd been playing alone. "Smart move," Lance said, straightening his tie. "Now, let's talk about your attitude problem. See, Troy, I've been reviewing personnel files, and yours makes for interesting reading. 28 years with this company, never a promotion beyond crane operator. You know why that is?" I didn't answer, but he continued anyway. "Because you're stuck in the past. You think because you can operate some machinery that makes you valuable. But machines are getting smarter every day. Pretty soon we won't need operators at all. Just technicians to push buttons and monitor computers. Those machines still need someone who understands how they work," I said quietly. "Do they?" Lance pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. "This is a fully automated crane system they're testing in Germany. No operator required. Just GPS coordinates and computer programming. The future, Troy. And you're not part of it." He pocketed the phone and looked me up and down like he was appraising livestock. "Which brings me to my decision. You're fired." The words hit me like a physical blow. You can't just fire me. I'm Union Local 404. There's a process. You need 3 warnings and a steward present. Lance's laugh was cruel and cutting. Troy, look around. I am the process. I'm the Wheeler family. My uncle built this company from nothing, and what he says goes. I can buy your union. I can buy your steward. Hell, I could probably buy your house if I wanted to. He stepped closer, invading my personal space. I could smell his expensive cologne, see the perfect knot in his silk tie. And let's be honest, that boy needed to see this. He needed to understand that his daddy isn't some hero. He's just another working stiff who takes orders from his betters. You made a mistake, Wheeler, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The only mistake was keeping you around this long, he replied. Now hand over your badge and the crane keys. You've got 10 minutes to clear out before I call security. I reached into my pocket, feeling the weight of the master key to the Liebherr 550. It was just a piece of metal, but it represented 28 years of skill, of pride, of feeding my family. I pulled it out and slapped it into his palm. Your 10 minutes start now, Lance said, pocketing the key. The walk from the drop zone to the parking area was 200 yards that felt like 200 miles. It was the walk of shame, usually reserved for guys caught stealing tools or showing up drunk. I'd never done either. I'd given this company nearly 3 decades of my life, and this was how it ended. As I passed the rebar crew, they looked down at their boots. These were men I'd shared lunch with, guys whose kids played Little League with Dustin. But fear makes people do things they're not proud of. If Lance could fire Troy Pierce without cause, none of them were safe. Sorry, Troy, whispered Cody Williams, the rebar foreman, as I walked by. But he didn't stop working, couldn't afford to. I reached my truck and climbed in. Dustin was slumped against the passenger window, the muddy sketchbook in his lap. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Are we poor now, Dad? He asked in a small voice. That question cut deeper than anything Lance had said. No, son. We're gonna be fine, but you lost your job. Yeah, I did. But sometimes losing one thing opens the door to something better. I wasn't sure I believed that myself, but I had to say something. I pulled out my wallet and started digging through the leather compartments, looking for a business card I'd kept for 6 years. Amy Thomas, attorney at law. 6 years ago, she'd been a young site inspector who tried to shut down a dangerous concrete pour. Management had tried to destroy her career for speaking up. I'd testified on her behalf even though it cost the company money and made me some enemies. After the hearing, she'd handed me her card. If you ever need help, Troy, you call me. I found the card, bent and faded but still readable, and pulled out my phone. I dialed the number. It rang twice. Amy Thomas. Amy, it's Troy Pierce from the Summit Building Project. There was a pause, then her voice warmed. Troy, please tell me you're calling about a barbecue, not because you're in trouble. I'm in trouble, Amy. Big trouble. I told her everything. The Mercedes in the drop zone, the public humiliation, Lance calling me a nobody in front of Dustin, getting fired without cause. When I finished, I could hear the scratch of a pen on paper. He fired you verbally? She asked. Yes, in front of 30 witnesses. Did he give you a termination slip, Form 10C? No. Did you sign out at the time clock? I checked my watch. No. It's 11 to 52. I'm technically still on shift until noon. Listen carefully, Troy, Amy said, her voice dropping into rapid-fire legal mode. Under national safety standards and your union contract, Clause 14, Section C, the operator of record has absolute authority to neutralize any hazard in a designated drop zone before leaving the site. If that car is in the red zone and the crane is under load, that's a Class A safety violation. He took my key, Amy. Does he have the spare? My heart stopped. The spare key. Every smart operator kept a magnetic backup key taped under the cab seat for emergencies. Lance, the MBA graduate, wouldn't know about that old-school trick. No, I whispered. He doesn't. Then you have a choice. Drive away and file wrongful termination in 6 months. We'll win eventually. Or you can do your job. Abate the hazard. If you move that steel or if an accident happens while you're securing the site, you're protected under Good Samaritan Safety Act, as long as you don't intentionally target him. I just want to move the steel, I said. A plan forming in my mind. The car is in the way, then move the steel, Troy. But be careful. If you mess this up, I can't save you from jail. But if you do it right, you'll own him. I hung up and looked at Dustin. Stay here, bud. Dad forgot something important. What did you forget? I looked up at the crane towering against the gray sky. My self-respect. I walked back through the gates, not with the shuffle of a fired man, but with the steady stride of someone with a job to finish. Wade Peterson was still at his guard post, whittling a piece of scrap wood. Elevators broken, Troy. Wade muttered without looking up. Exercise is good for the heart, Wade. The climb to the cab was 280 feet of pure adrenaline. Every rung brought me closer to either vindication or ruin. When I reached the top, I slid into the familiar operator's seat and reached under the cushion. Click, there it was. The magnetic spare key, right where I'd hidden it years ago. I fired up the diesel generator. The dashboard came alive with green, amber, and red lights. The familiar thrum of hydraulic pumps filled the cab. I grabbed the radio mic. This is Operator 1, powering up for emergency safety operations. Clear the deck. Troy, what are you doing? Lisa's voice crackled through the static. I'm still on the clock, Lisa. Check the logs. I haven't punched out. Under Clause 14, I cannot leave the site with an unsecured load over an obstructed drop zone. Troy, please. The wind's picking up. Hydraulic pressure's fluctuating. I have to ground the load. I pushed the joystick forward. 4 tons of steel beams began their descent. From 280 feet up, the Mercedes looked like a toy car. The load swayed slightly in the October breeze as it dropped 200 feet, 150, 100. Suddenly, the trailer door burst open. Lance came stumbling out, sandwich in one hand, phone in the other. He looked up and saw death approaching his precious car. I keyed the PA system. Clear the drop zone. Conducting emergency safety operations. Lance was screaming something, waving his arms, but I couldn't hear him over the diesel engine. He pointed his phone at my cab, probably recording, then made the stupidest decision of his life. He ran toward the Mercedes. Do not enter crush zone, I announced. Safety protocols in effect, but Lance wasn't listening. He grabbed the car door handle, probably thinking he could drive it to safety. I dropped the load another 10 feet. The steel beams stopped just 20 feet above his sunroof, swaying like a massive pendulum. Lance scrambled backward, slipped in the mud, and went down hard on his backside. His $1,000 suit was ruined. The crew had gathered at the safety fence, watching like spectators at a demolition derby. Nobody was cheering, but nobody was looking away either. Hydraulic failure, I announced calmly. Brakes compromised, emergency ground procedures. Lance had crawled clear of the red zone, muddy and humiliated but alive. The drop zone was empty of personnel. I disengaged the primary brake. 4 tons of American steel plummeted. The sound was beautiful and terrible. Crushing glass, crumpling metal, the deep percussion of suspension components snapping. The Mercedes didn't just get flattened, it got obliterated. In 2 seconds, $140,000 of German engineering became 2 feet of scrap metal. Load secured, I said softly into the radio. As the dust settled, I noticed something strange. The impact had cracked the thin asphalt patch Lance had laid down last month. Dark liquid was bubbling up from underneath, mixing with transmission fluid and coolant. But this wasn't automotive fluid, this was something else. What the hell did you bury, Lance? I muttered. Sirens wailed in the distance. Time to face the music. By the time I climbed down, the police had arrived. Officer Randy Martinez stood next to Lance, who was practically vibrating with rage. Arrest him, Lance screamed. Attempted murder, destruction of property. Before Martinez could respond, Amy Thomas's black sedan screeched into the parking area. She stepped out in a power suit and heels that meant business. Officer, I represent Mr. Pierce. My client was conducting emergency safety operations under OSHA guidelines. While they argued, Wade Peterson shuffled over to the wreckage, poking at the ground with his cane. Troy, Wade called out. You need to see this. The steel beams had crushed the Mercedes so completely that the trunk had burst open. Lying in the toxic mud were bundles of cash, a laptop, and thick ledgers bound in leather. That's private property? Lance shrieked. But Martinez was already on his radio. Dispatch, get EPA and Fraud Division down here. We got a situation. The impact hadn't just destroyed Lance's car. It had cracked open his entire criminal operation. The bubbling black sludge was industrial waste he'd been dumping illegally to cut costs. The ledgers contained records of bribes paid to inspectors. The cash was evidence of a conspiracy that reached into City Hall. Within 6 months, Lance Wheeler was serving a federal sentence for environmental crimes and corruption. The company settled my wrongful termination suit for $850,000. I didn't get my job back, didn't want it. Today, I'm sitting on the deck of my fishing charter boat, Justice, watching the sunset paint the water gold and red. Dustin's with me, older now, working on his college applications. He's decided on engineering, wants to build things that last, he says. Make them safe and strong. Wade Peterson works for me now, greeting customers at the marina. Amy Thomas sends me Christmas cards. And sometimes when the wind's just right, I can still hear the sound of 4 tons of American steel hitting its target. You know what I learned? Never let anyone tell you your work doesn't matter. Know your rights and use them. Sometimes the rules they try to control you with are the same ones that can set you free. And if you're going to drop the hammer on someone, make sure they deserve it. Because justice, like gravity, always finds a way. Sometimes the most important lesson you can teach your son isn't how to succeed, but how to stand up when the world tries to knock you down. Because a man's character is measured not by how high he climbs, but by how he fights when his back's against the wall. They can take your job, they can take your paycheck, but they can never take away the skills in your hands or the fire in your heart. And when you combine 28 years of know-how with righteous anger, that's when ordinary working men become forces of nature.